Dr. Giroir is here, former Assistant Secretary for Health, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's good to see you, Admiral, as always. Upon reflection, do a lot of Americans and people who are concerned about the vaccine deserve an apology?
Absolutely. I believe they do. We approach this, you have to be open with people. We knew very early on that there was an increase in the heart inflammation, myocarditis, much more with a couple of the vaccines versus Pfizer. But this very large study of about 100 million people shows that there are rare neurologic effects, there are rare immune effects, and there are the heart inflammation. And these are legitimate concerns. We have to be open with people that, you know, if you're 70 years old or 75, yeah, and that risk, you should be getting the boosters. But if you're 25 and healthy, particularly a male, and you've had COVID before, that risk of myocarditis is about the same or maybe even a little bit higher than your risk of having a serious outcome. So yes, people deserve an apology. I think open, honest scientific discussion was crushed. And even I myself had a tweet banned because I simply stated the fact, proven by data, that those who were naturally immune, who had COVID, should not lose their jobs, should not need passports, should not need other things, because they were equally immune as those who got the vaccine in the Delta outbreak.
It's stunning to me always, the banning and sort of the stifling of free speech, because it was the ideas were somehow scary to the orthodoxy or somehow took away the power of the institutions. To that end, with so much trust lost in our institutions and in public health, CDC and NIH seem to just be doubling down in their arrogance. Nope, we weren't wrong. No, we were completely right. Misinformation is this huge problem. Why do you think they refuse to learn and apologize to what is always a pretty forgiving American public?
You know, I think there's some pathology there, because one of the first principles of being a physician, as I am, is to be honest with your patient and to respect their autonomy. You provide the best information you can and you let them make a decision. We're not in a paternalistic society where we force people to have an operation or force people to take vaccines. We give them the information. And that is, I think, the most important lesson that public health officials need to learn. Get back to basics. Tell the truth. Be honest. American people are smart. They can handle the truth. Don't try to whitewash it or coerce people, as Dr. Fauci clearly did on a number of occasions, and let Americans make their own decision. I was banned. I was surprised to learn that it was a former FDA commissioner, but who was then a board member of Pfizer, getting me banned for simply saying that natural immunity is powerful. That's how deep and corrupt the system goes.
Wow. Yeah, I remember those times. They were wild. Memoir of the Pandemic is your book. And I think it's really important that you go into these issues, you deal with them honestly. You've been one of the people from the very beginning, I think, who had the courage to say, hey, we don't know what we don't know, which unfortunately became very difficult to so many people to say. Good to see you, Admiral, as always. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.